Chapter 99, Sudden Change. Zhang Songfeng was somewhat displeased with Li Chang'an. He felt that Li Chang'an's arrival signified Zhang Qingqing's distrust in them. "Qingqing, are you worried my old eyes have grown dim, and I might misjudge something?" he asked Zhang Qingqing directly, his old face stern. Zhang Qingqing smiled and explained gently, "Grandmaster Songfeng, Taoist Li has had some fortuitous encounters and seen many treasures. I feel his eye for appraisal should be quite good, so I asked him to come help." "Seen many treasures?" Zhang Songfeng snorted, unimpressed. He declared proudly, "The treasures I've seen in my lifetime are probably more than the meals he's eaten." The side Li Chang'an remained silent. "I have no desire to argue with an old man like this." Just then Zhang Qingqing quietly sent him a sound transmission. "Taoist Li, he's just an old stick in the mud. Don't mind him, just focus on appraising the treasures." "Rest assured, young mistress, I have always respected the elder generation of cultivators," Li Chang'an replied via sound transmission. He then began to appraise the treasures in earnest, searching for the phoenix blood wood mentioned in his divination. Most of the treasures were easy to identify, like elixir pills, talismans, and magical artifacts. With his current skill, he could determine their tier with a single glance. The other treasure appraisers soon revealed surprised expressions. "He really does have some skill." However, Zhang Songfeng's face remained stern. After a while, Li Chang'an moved to a pile of low-value treasures. Zhang Songfeng reminded him coldly, "Kid, I've already appraised those items. They're all of very low value. Do you think I would have misjudged them?" Li Chang'an said nothing and simply continued his earnest search. He focused his concentration, his gaze sweeping over one treasure after another. Where could that piece of phoenix blood wood be? Li Chang'an carefully tried to distinguish it. Phoenix blood wood was extremely valuable. It wasn't just for body refinement. It could also be used in alchemy, artifact refining, puppetry, and even array formation. For this reason, almost every time it appeared, it was reserved in advance by major powers. Even with his current connections, Su Fugui hadn't been able to find a piece for Li Chang'an. If he missed this piece, Li Chang'an didn't know how long he would have to wait for the next one. Suddenly, Li Chang'an's gaze froze on a piece of charred black wood. Could this be it? He reached out to pick it up. A faint warmth spread through his hand as he touched it. This warmth was the signature characteristic of phoenix blood wood. This should be it, right? Li Chang'an glanced at the other areas again. There were quite a few pieces of treasure wood in the entire treasure division tower, but the one in his hand best matched the description. He observed it carefully for a long time. Judging by its appearance alone, it did indeed look like ordinary fire nan wood. Just then Zhang Songfeng spoke up again. "Kid, that's a piece of fire nan wood. What are you staring at it for so long for? Don't tell me you think it's some rare treasure." Hearing this, Li Chang'an rejoiced. The old man judged it to be fire nan wood. That matches the divination's description. Zhang Songfeng continued, "If you can't even identify such a low-grade treasure, you should leave now. Don't cause trouble here." Their exchange quickly caught Zhang Qingqing's attention. She was also a bit curious. Why was Li Chang'an staring at that piece of fire nan wood for so long? "Taoist Li, have you discovered a problem?" "It's nothing." Li Chang'an shook his head slightly and put down the fire nan wood. His expression was normal as he continued to inspect other treasures. After the entire day, aside from the phoenix blood wood, he didn't find any other hidden gems. That evening, as he was about to leave, Li Chang'an privately asked Zhang Qingqing a question. "Young mistress, would it be possible to sell that piece of fire nan wood to me?" "Of course." That piece of fire nan wood was an auction item provided by the Zhang clan territory, not a loose cultivator, so Zhang Qingqing had the authority to make the decision. However, Zhang Qingqing was suspicious. This fire nan wood was very likely some other, more valuable treasure. She took the fire nan wood with her slender hands, a trace of doubt on her pretty face, and observed it closely for a long time. In the end, she shook her head slightly, unable to find anything unusual. Soon the two signed a contract. And just like that, Li Chang'an bought the piece of phoenix blood wood for the price of fire nan wood. After returning with a single thought, he sent out a strand of sword qi. With a crack, the entire piece of treasure wood was split in two. The cross-section was blood-red, as if blood was about to drip out, looking somewhat horrifying. "It really is phoenix blood wood." A delighted expression appeared on Li Chang'an's face as he put it away. Over the next 2 days, he continued to visit the Treasure Division Tower and found another hidden gem, a treasure needed for the 8th stage of body refining. A blood-burning fruit. This treasure was also extremely precious. Zhang Songfeng had mistaken it for an ordinary vermilion fruit and sorted it into the pile of low-value treasures. At this point, Li Chang'an was only missing the last 2 treasures for the 8th stage of body refining. Over the next few days, I might be able to find more hidden gems. Li Chang'an silently looked forward to it. That night at midnight, the divination appeared again. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious. You go to the Treasure Division Tower to appraise treasures and find the hidden gem, withered profound crystal. Just as you are about to leave, an enemy suddenly appears in the tower and attacks you and Zhang Qingqing, but is quickly defeated by her. You remain unharmed. An enemy? Li Chang'an was stunned. Who would dare attack the Zhang family's young mistress in Qingham Marketplace? After all, ancestor Zhang Yuandao was not yet dead. Could Zhang Lingfeng have arranged it? Does he have the guts? Li Chang'an thought instinctively. The divination says it's auspicious, which means the enemy isn't very powerful. Maybe it's just a small probing attack. He pondered for a moment. In any case, he still had to go tomorrow. The withered profound crystal mentioned in the divination was a treasure required for the 9th stage of body refining. The next day, Li Chang'an went to the Treasure Division Tower. As usual, he was chided a few times by Zhang Songfeng before he began searching for the withered profound crystal mentioned in the divination. Soon he locked onto a dusty, crystal-like treasure. This should be it. Li Chang'an picked it up and observed it carefully for a moment. Zhang Songfeng's voice rang out once again. Kid, that's a gray marrow crystal. It has very low value. Don't waste your time. Hearing this, Li Chang'an silently put the crystal down, seemingly following Zhang Songfeng's advice. This action of his made Zhang Songfeng feel quite smug. Time flew by. Before he knew it, the sun had set, and it was evening again. Let's call it a day. Thank you all for your hard work. Zhang Qingqing said with a smile, thanking everyone. Everyone began to pack their things, preparing to leave the Treasure Division Tower. But just then, something unexpected happened. The entire Treasure Division Tower suddenly trembled. Immediately after, the world around them seemed to shift. Thick, cold black clouds suddenly emerged from the void, instantly swallowing everything around them, leaving only the terrified group standing in the center. A quasi-tier 2 array, the black cloud sealing heaven formation. Zhang Songfeng recognized the array, his face a mask of shock. This type of array was stronger than a Tier 1 array, but didn't quite reach the level of Tier 2, which was why it was called quasi-tier 2. Chapter 100, Flame Celestial Net. A quasi-tier 2 array. While it couldn't match a true Tier 2, its power was not to be underestimated. Without any preparation, even a cultivator at the Qi refining 9th layer couldn't break through it. Everyone stay calm. Zhang Songfeng, after all, was a man of experience. He quickly composed himself and reassured the others around him. This black cloud sealing heaven formation is only for trapping enemies. It isn't very powerful. Elder Songfeng is right. Everyone, use your defensive measures. I'm sure the ancestor will notice something is wrong here soon. Hearing the word ancestor put everyone slightly at ease. After all, nearly every member of the Zhang family present had grown up listening to the legendary stories of their ancestor. As long as the ancestor made a move, he could rescue them in no time. But just then, a sinister laugh echoed from within the black clouds. The Zhang family ancestor, you mean Zhang Yuandao, his lifespan is nearly spent. He's most likely fallen into a deep slumber by now. What? Everyone was shocked. Zhang Songfeng immediately retorted in anger. Impossible, our ancestor is in his prime. Heh, why lie to yourselves? The moment the voice fell, the black clouds churned. In an instant, more than 10 puppets descended from the sky. They were all at the Tier 1 late stage and charged in unison toward Zhang Songfeng and the others. This is bad. Zhang Songfeng's expression changed again. He realized the enemy was far stronger than he had imagined. He immediately called for everyone to gather. Qingqing, and you boy, get over here quickly. We can't let them pick us off one by one. Everyone scrambled toward him, their faces etched with panic and worry. Li Chang'an, however, was quite calm. After all, the divination was auspicious, which means this situation won't be too dangerous. These dozen or so Tier 1 late-stage puppets, I can handle them by myself. Suddenly, the black clouds churned once more, and a figure with a tyrannical aura descended from the sky. With a boom, it slammed down in front of him. A Tier 1 peak puppet. Li Chang'an's gaze sharpened, and he stopped in his tracks. A puppet like this has strength comparable to a master at the Qi refining 9th layer. I have 2 of them myself. At that same moment on the other side, 5 figures descended from the sky, completely surrounding Zhang Qingqing. These 5 figures were, shockingly, 5 Tier 1 peak puppets. They also corresponded to the 5 elements, gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, and vaguely formed a 5 elements mutual generation battle formation. Zhang Qingqing, we meet again. A cold voice emanated from one of the puppets. Zhang Qingqing's expression remained unchanged, as she stared at it indifferently. Xianxia, you've got quite the nerve. Heh, I'm only controlling these puppets. My real body isn't inside King Marketplace, so it's hardly that bold. The puppet had just admitted its controller's identity. He was none other than the killing child of the Cao family. Xianxia. Upon hearing this, Zhang Songfeng and the others were all stunned. Xianxia, how dare you be so audacious? Aren't you afraid of starting a war between our 2 families? A war? Xianxia laughed, his voice laced with contempt. Your Zhang family has 2 foundation establishment ancestors. One is on his deathbed, and the other is cowering in your clan's territory, too afraid to come out. What makes you think you can go to war with my Cao family? You? Zhang Songfeng and the others' faces flushed with rage, wishing they could rush over and tear him to pieces. However, the dozen or so Tier 1 late-stage puppets alone were enough to keep them in a panic scramble. As things stood, they were powerless to help Zhang Qingqing or Li Chang'an. Qingqing, and you boy, you have to hold on. The ancestor will be here soon. Zhang Songfeng shouted to the 2 of them, his heart filled with anxiety. He still pinned all his hopes on their ancestor, Zhang Yuandao. But Xianxia, after all, had come prepared. This black cloud sealing heaven formation had almost no offensive capability. Its main purpose was to trap and seal, completely locking down the entire area. From the outside, at this very moment, the Treasure Division Tower showed no signs of anything unusual. It looked just as it always did. Zhang Qingqing, if you surrender obediently and sign a servant spirit contract with me, I might consider sparing your life. Xianxia was brimming with confidence, his tone cold and haughty. In his eyes, Zhang Qingqing was already a prize within his grasp, utterly incapable of defeating these 5 peak puppets. Hearing this, Zhang Songfeng and the others grew even more furious. How could the young miss of the Zhang family become someone else's servant? Zhang Qingqing, my patience is wearing thin. I'll give you 3 breaths to consider. Seeing no reaction from Zhang Qingqing, Xianxia assumed she was wavering and grew even more confident. Little did he know, Zhang Qingqing was simply sending a sound transmission to Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, how long can you last? In her eyes, Li Chang'an was only at the middle stage of Qi refining. Even with a Tier 1 late-stage puppet for protection, this situation was extremely dangerous for him. The slightest misstep could get him severely injured by that Tier 1 peak puppet. But Li Chang'an calmly replied, "Young miss, just do what you need to do. Don't worry about me." With that said, he lightly tapped his storage pouch. A jet-black puppet immediately appeared by his side. Seeing this puppet, Zhang Qingqing was momentarily surprised. Taoist Li, did you have someone modify this puppet? I did. This puppet was indeed that defense puppet. The aura it was now emitting was also that of a Tier 1 peak. At the same time, Xianxia also noticed the change on Li Chang'an's side. Li Chang'an, you really do have some tricks up your sleeve, but did you think I wouldn't be prepared for that? The moment he finished speaking, another Tier 1 peak puppet descended from the sky, landing behind Li Chang'an. The 2 puppets, one in front and one behind, seemed to have sealed off all his escape routes. But Li Chang'an remained calm. His expression unchanged, he sent a sound transmission to Zhang Qingqing. "Young miss, don't hesitate. Just focus on your enemies." "All right." Zhang Qingqing was incredibly decisive. Without another word, she stopped worrying about whether Li Chang'an would live or die. The next instant, an incredibly terrifying aura erupted from her. A fiery red umbrella opened in her hand. Engulfed in crimson flames, it rose high into the air. The canopy suddenly expanded, becoming like a great, blazing sun that instantly pushed back the surrounding black clouds. A Quasite 2 magical artifact, the flaming celestial net umbrella. Immediately after, another streak of crimson light appeared, materializing in her hand as a searing hot whip. A Quasite 2 magical artifact, the red snake whip. Boom! Flame surged as crimson fire billowed. Xianxia's long hair whipped about, and flames seemed to burn in the depths of her eyes. Her cyan green dress instantly turned a fiery red. It was clearly a magical artifact as well. Chang'an watched, inwardly shocked. So the young miss has to transform before she fights. They had known each other for so many years, but this was the first time he had ever seen Xianxia fight with her full strength. Her aura was astounding. She had already reached the very peak of the Qi refining realm. The Qi refining 9th layer. Boom! The long whip in Xianxia's hand flashed. Like a churning fire dragon, it instantly lashed out at one of the puppets controlled by Cao Xiaolin. A single strike was enough to make the formation of the 5 puppets waver. How is this possible? Her true strength had completely exceeded Cao Xiaolin's expectations. Cao Xiaolin was utterly shocked. This formation of 5 elements puppets won't be able to hold out for long. For now, he had no choice but to turn his attention to Chang'an and immediately command his 2 puppets to attack. At the same time, his cold, sinister voice sounded in Chang'an's ear. Chang'an, do you want to live or do you want to die? Chapter 101, Chapter 101, just 1 point stronger than me. Of course I want to live. What does Taoist Cao want me to do? Chang'an's expression remained unchanged as he asked casually. Soon Cao Xiaolin's cold voice came again. If you want to live, then cooperate with me. Pretend you're heavily injured and get Xianxia to come save you. Then ambush her. As long as you succeed, I can spare your life. He had long since learned from Zheng Lingfeng that Chang'an and Xianxia had an unusual relationship. They were most likely lovers. Therefore, in today's scheme, he had intended to use Chang'an all along. If Chang'an cooperated willingly, that would be for the best. If he didn't cooperate, then they would focus all their efforts on killing him, using him to affect Xianxia and force her to be distracted. Hearing this, Chang'an replied casually. Taoist Cao, the young miss has been a close friend of mine for many years. How could I possibly turn on her just because of your promise? His nonchalant reply immediately angered Cao Xiaolin. He said coldly, fine. Since you're so determined to die, I'll grant your wish. The moment his voice fell, the 2 puppets' attacks suddenly became incomparably fierce. The puppets that appeared this time were all attack-focused. The offensive power of these high-quality puppets had already reached the limits of Tier 1. Comparable to an old monster who had accumulated power at the Qi refining 9th layer for many years. Boom, boom, boom. Chang'an controlled the defense puppet, fighting 1 against 2, and seemed to be in constant peril. Before long, one of the puppets broke through the defense puppet's blockade and charged toward him. At the same time, Cao Xiaolin's voice rang out once more. Chang'an, I'll give you 1 more chance. As long as you cooperate, not only will I spare your life, but I can also give you a position as an honored retainer of the Cao family. You're not even a member of the Zheng family. Why throw your life away for them? Taoist Cao, with an attitude like that, you make it really hard for me to trust you. Chang'an's tone was still relaxed, with no hint of urgency. He replied calmly, Taoist Cao, how about you swear an oath on your Tao heart and promise you won't kill me? HMPH. Cao Xiaolin snorted coldly. An oath on one's Tao heart was a serious matter. If one were to carelessly break such an oath, it would lead to backlash or even the birth of a heart demon. He had no intention of making such an oath for a minor character like Chang'an. Truly stubborn, Chang'an, Xianxia might not die today, but you most certainly will. The attack puppet under his control came whistling through the air. A ferocious aura washed over them, as if it would destroy everything. Kid, be careful. Not far away, Zheng Songfeng watched anxiously and shouted out in haste. Chang'an smiled. Don't worry, Elder Zheng, I won't die that easily. His figure flickered. Like a phantom, he instantly dodged the puppet's attack, leaving only an afterimage in his place. This astonishing speed left Zheng Songfeng and the others dumbfounded. Cao Xiaolin was also stunned for a moment. He quickly recovered, the killing intent in his voice growing even stronger. Good, good, good. No wonder you were so confident, so you've cultivated an escape technique. But inside my array, where can you possibly escape to? I'd like to see how long you can keep dodging. As everyone knew, no matter how good an escape technique was, one still needed space to use it. Back then, the third boss of Black Wind Mountain, relying on his unparalleled escape technique, thought he could easily kill Li Chang'an, only to fall into an array. Now, Li Chang'an was facing the same situation. The black cloud sealing heaven formation had already sealed off this area. He could only weave and dodge within an extremely narrow space, repeatedly evading the puppet's attacks. It looked like he was in constant peril, and several times it seemed as if he had been torn to shreds. But when everyone looked closely, they realized it was just an afterimage he had left behind. Meanwhile, Xianxia sent a sound transmission to Zhang Qingqing. Heh heh, Zhang Qingqing, your little lover is about to die. Aren't you worried? Lover? Zhang Qingqing froze for a moment. She glanced at Li Chang'an not far away with a strange look in her eyes. So that's how it is. She had felt that something about today's situation was strange, and now she finally understood. After all, although Xianxia was an enemy of the Zhang family, none of this had anything to do with Li Chang'an. Before today, the two of them had barely even interacted. Why would he prepare two Tier 1 peak puppets in advance to deal with Li Chang'an? Zhang Qingqing had just been wondering about this, but after hearing him speak, she immediately put the pieces together. It seems that fool Zhang Lingfeng misled you. Zhang Lingfeng, I have nothing to do with him. Xianxia denied it outright. Zhang Qingqing said no more. With a cold expression, she unleashed her fire Taoist skill, once again bombarding the 5 puppets surrounding her. Rumble! Under her terrifying assault, the auras of the 5 puppets grew weaker and weaker. A moment later, the 5 elements mutual generation array they were maintaining was forcefully broken. The next instant, Zhang Qingqing flicked her long whip, creating a sonic boom. The crimson whip, like a venomous snake, instantly pierced through the body of one of the puppets. Boom! Searing magical power surged, erupting from the long whip. The puppet instantly exploded into pieces. It turned into countless broken components, scattering all over the ground. How could she be so fast? Xianxia was shocked once again. Zhang Qingqing's speed in breaking the 5 elements puppet array far exceeded his imagination. In the blink of an eye, another puppet exploded. After losing the 5 elements array, they couldn't block Zhang Qingqing at all. Their Tier 1 peak strength might be considered extremely powerful to an ordinary loose cultivator, but in front of Zhang Qingqing, they were like paper tigers. Damn it, Zhang Lingfeng really is an idiot. He had no idea of Zhang Qingqing's true strength. Xianxia's face was ashen as he cursed inwardly. Today's encirclement and assassination plot was something he and Zhang Lingfeng had discussed for a long time before finalizing. Because Zhang Qingqing rarely made a move, few people even within the Zhang family knew her actual strength, let alone the Cao family. When Xianxia had asked about Zhang Qingqing's strength, Zhang Lingfeng had said, Zhang Qingqing is only a little stronger than me. He was, after all, the second young master of the Zhang family. Ranked second among the younger generation, second only to Zhang Qingqing. The talent they showed when they were young was similar, and the cultivation immortality resources they received later were also nearly identical. The only difference was that Zhang Qingqing occasionally went out to gain experience. Logically, the difference in their strength shouldn't have been that great. Seeing his confident and earnest appearance, Xianxia had believed him. The 5 elements puppets today were created by him after spending countless resources, and they were designed to be several times stronger than Zhang Lingfeng. There shouldn't have been any mishaps. And yet, not long after it began, the situation had spun out of control. Boom, boom, boom. 3 explosions rang out in quick succession. The remaining 3 puppets exploded one after another, becoming a pile of fragmented materials and components on the ground. Zhang Qingqing, holding her long whip, her aura undiminished, moved. She transformed into a streak of fire, appeared before Li Chang'an in an instant, and lashed out with her whip at the puppet that was chasing him. With a rumble, the puppet was instantly whipped into pieces. Li Chang'an's eyelids twitched as he watched. The young miss really hides her strength well. If that whip had struck him, he likely would have exploded on the spot as well. The situation was now settled. There would be no more surprises. Li Chang'an relaxed. Chapter 102. Chapter 102. That's not fire Nan wood. This young master of the cow family is really rich, willing to build so many puppets. Li Chang'an mused as he looked at the puppet fragments littering the floor. In fact, with his current wealth, he could also afford to build this many puppets. But having too many puppets was useless, a sheer waste of resources, unless he could obtain the legendary puppet battle array technique. According to legend, there was a special type of battle array technique designed specifically for puppets. It could merge the power of all the puppets within the array, concentrating it into a single force. The 5 elements array used by Cao Xiaolin's 5 puppets today had a faint resemblance to a puppet battle array, but it was a far cry from the legendary effect. It wasn't even close. If they had truly formed a battle array, the combined power of the 5 elements puppets would have made them impossible to defeat so easily. They might have even been able to suppress Zheng Qingqing. They say that if you have enough Tier 1 peak puppets in a battle array, they can even hold off a foundation establishment great cultivator. Li Chang'an recalled a rumor he had once heard. Of course, such rumors were often exaggerated. No one knew what enough actually meant in concrete numbers. While Li Chang'an was lost in thought, Zheng Qingqing had already finished off the remaining dozen or so puppets. Just before the last puppet shattered, Cao Xiaolin's furious voice echoed from it. Zheng Qingqing, today was nothing more than a test. Just you wait, we will meet again. Boom! The moment he finished speaking, the puppet exploded completely. The entire Treasure Division tower fell silent. As far as the eye could see, the floor was littered with wrecked puppet components and materials. Phew! Zhang Songfeng and the others all breathed a collective sigh of relief, their worries finally easing. They had all believed this would be a life-or-death battle, and had even been prepared to die here. But Zheng Qingqing's sudden explosion of strength had taken everyone completely by surprise. Qingqing, are you about to attempt foundation establishment? Zhang Songfeng hesitated for a moment before he couldn't help but ask. Zheng Qingqing nodded slightly. Yes, very soon. Hearing this, Zhang Songfeng and the others were overjoyed. For some time now, the state of Zheng Yuandao's health had been weighing on the mind of every Zheng family cultivator. Although they publicly insisted that Zheng Yuandao was fine and had decades left to live, they all understood the truth deep down. The ancestors' health had most likely taken a serious turn for the worse. If they couldn't produce a new foundation establishment ancestor soon, the Zheng family's decline was inevitable. But now, Zheng Qingqing's strength gave them hope. However, reaching foundation establishment is difficult. Whether I can succeed or not is another question entirely. Zheng Qingqing's expression was placid. Before her, several members of the Zheng family with talent equal to her own had already attempted to reach foundation establishment. But they had all failed. Qingqing, you're different from them. You'll definitely succeed. That's right, young miss. If even you can't do it, who in this world can? The others all chimed in. Their words meant to both encourage Zheng Qingqing and bolster their own wavering confidence. Hearing their words, a smile touched Zheng Qingqing's lips, but she said nothing more. But in her downcast eyes, an imperceptible flicker of exhaustion could be seen. Then she looked up at the churning black clouds overhead. Since all the puppets controlled by Cao Xiaolin had been destroyed, there was no one left to command the array. It was now running on its own, its power greatly diminished. Break! Zheng Qingqing took out several array-breaking treasures. A dozen breaths later, the black cloud sealing heaven formation that had enveloped the Treasure Division tower was shattered. She moved like a blur, swiftly plucking the array flags from the air around them. In moments, the array had completely dissipated. A moment later, Zheng Qingqing walked over to Li Chang'an. Recalling Cao Xiaolin's earlier words, she gave him an odd look. Taoist Li, this whole affair was due to the struggle between the Zheng and Cao families. You were unfortunately dragged into it. Are you injured? It's nothing serious. Li Chang'an smiled, his tone light. From start to finish, the puppets controlled by Cao Xiaolin hadn't even touched him. By the way, young miss, the Treasure Division tower is vital to the Zheng family. There's no way the Cao family could have set up this grand array undetected. I suspect someone in the Zheng family is colluding with them. Yes, there must be an insider. The two exchanged a look. Both guessed it was probably that fool, Zheng Lingfeng. Unfortunately, they had no concrete proof. "Young miss, when do you plan to attempt foundation establishment?" Li Chang'an asked bluntly. Judging by the strength Zhang Qingqing had just displayed, if she truly wanted to contend with Zhang Lingfeng, there was no way she would have lost control over the marketplace. Therefore, she had likely relinquished her authority voluntarily, setting aside worldly distractions to focus solely on her plans for foundation establishment. "Very soon, I plan to attempt my foundation establishment in Yellow Crane Immortal City." Zhang Qingqing explained her reasoning. Attempting it within the Zhang family estate, or even in King Marketplace, wouldn't be safe. At the most critical moment, a hidden mole could interfere. That was why she planned to go to Yellow Crane Immortal City. After all, a Golden Core Master presided over the city. Neither the Cao family nor the Wu family would dare cause trouble within the walls of an immortal city. "Taoist Li, if you also aspire to reach foundation establishment, you should go to Yellow Crane Immortal City sooner, rather than later, to acquire the necessary foundation establishment resources." "I understand." After their conversation ended, Zhang Qingqing ordered her people to clean up the puppet fragments littering the floor. During the cleanup, Li Chang'an claimed his own puppet had been damaged and picked up a few valuable puppet materials, saying he needed them for repairs. Once everything was settled, he found Zhang Qingqing again and bought the valuable withered profound crystal from her for the price of a gray marrow crystal. Another great find. Feeling satisfied, Li Chang'an was about to leave. Just then, Zhang Qingqing suddenly called out to him. "Taoist Li, I've been thinking for the past few days. That piece of treasure wood you bought, it was fire nan wood. It was phoenix blood wood, wasn't it?" "This..." Li Chang'an froze. He paused, wondering how to respond. Just then he heard Zhang Qingqing speak again. "Perhaps I'm overthinking things. Please don't mind me, Taoist Li." "Of course." Li Chang'an smiled, turned and took his leave. After he left, Zhang Songfeng, who was standing nearby, frowned deeply. He racked his brain, recalling the details of the fire nan wood and mulling it over for a long time. Suddenly, a jolt went through him. His eyes widened as he stared in the direction Li Chang'an had gone. Damn it, that kid made out like a bandit. Feeling indignant, he was about to give chase. But Zhang Qingqing called out to him with a smile, stopping him in his tracks. "Grandmaster Songfeng, what would you do if you chased him down, and he simply handed you a genuine piece of fire nan wood?" "I..." Zhang Songfeng froze. She was right. Li Chang'an had paid for fire nan wood. There was no proof it was ever phoenix blood wood. It was all because he, Zhang Songfeng, had made a mistake in his initial assessment. He couldn't help but feel a surge of regret, mixed with a hint of embarrassment, as he recalled how he had been lecturing Li Chang'an for the past few days. "Sigh, my old eyes must be failing me. To think my judgment is worse than some young pups." Chapter 103. Chapter 103. Foundation Establishment Favor. A few days later. The auction was held as scheduled. Li Chang'an didn't manage to find any hidden gems this time. After all, he had already scooped up anything worth finding before the auction even started. So he simply bid on and won the last 2 treasures he needed for the 8th stage of body refinement. "I've finally gathered them all." He let out a long sigh of relief. He had spent a great deal of effort gathering these treasures recently. For a time after that, Li Chang'an's life returned to its usual routine, alternating between qi refining, body refinement, and alchemy. Just 9 short months later, he successfully refined a Tier 1 top-grade elixir. If word of this breakthrough speed got out, it would shock countless people. This was because the leap from middle grade to top-grade skill was a process that usually took years. "If only my cultivation talent was this strong," Li Chang'an lamented to himself. He had been keeping an eye on news about various secret realms for a long time, but still hadn't heard of any way to improve one's spiritual root. Over in Yellow Crane Immortal City, Su Fugui and Chu Danyu were also helping him gather information, as they too wished to improve their own spiritual roots. "Forget it. I'll focus on consolidating my alchemy skill for now and take it one step at a time." Li Chang'an ignited his pill fire and began refining other elixir pills. Although he was talented in the alchemy Dao, he wasn't complacent. He knew he couldn't compare to the true top-tier geniuses. Throughout the long river of history, there had been countless prodigies of the alchemy Dao whose talent far surpassed his own. For example, according to the records in his alchemy inheritance, There was a senior known as Master Dan Cheng who could achieve the legendary "one thought becomes a pill." However, that senior was a figure from ancient times and had likely long since passed on. The talisman and puppetry inheritances Chang'an had obtained also recorded some celestial prides, but they were all from ancient times as well. The current cultivation immortality realm seemed to have regressed, as no such celestial prides had appeared since. Time flew by. Another 3 months passed. During this period, Chang'an frequently visited the black market, selling talismans, puppets, and various elixir pills he had refined, steadily filling his storage pouch. With the help of his divination, he encountered almost no problems in the black market. Until one day, just after midnight, a golden light appeared before his eyes. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious. You go to the black market to sell elixir pills and are targeted by a tribulation cultivator. The other party tails you all the way out of the black market and attacks in a remote area, but you easily kill them in a counterattack. Not only will you obtain their personal treasures, but you will also receive a foundation establishment favor. A foundation establishment favor. Chang'an was stunned. How can killing a tribulation cultivator earn me a foundation establishment favor? Could it be that the tribulation cultivator targeting me is wanted by a foundation establishment powerhouse? Chang'an was secretly delighted. The more foundation establishment favors, the better. He currently only had one, the favor from Mo Kingsu, the celestial pride of the puppetry Mo family. That celestial pride with the ice spirit root had already achieved foundation establishment success back in Yellow Crane Immortal City. Before I reach foundation establishment myself, having another foundation establishment favor will give me an extra layer of security. Chang'an immediately began his preparations. Foundation establishment favor was on the line. There was no room for carelessness. The next morning, he altered his aura, disguising himself as a fire element cultivator, and hurried to the black market. After arriving near the black market, he sent his speed puppet in his place to sell elixir pills, just as usual. Before long, the sales were complete. He bought some necessary materials for alchemy and puppetry, then left the black market. Just then, a figure completely shrouded in a black robe quickly fell in behind him, following closely from a short distance. I've been targeted, just as expected. Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief. So far, so good. If no one had taken the bait this time, I would have had to go back with a different identity and try again. The two of them, one in front and one behind, moved at a considerable speed, swiftly crossing mountain range after mountain range until they were far from the black market. At that very moment, the black-robed man behind him suddenly accelerated. His voice followed. "Friend up ahead, I felt a sense of kinship the moment I saw you. It's clear you have an affinity with my Black Wind Mountain. Why not come up the mountain and be our guest?" Black Wind Mountain. Chang'an's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected it to be someone from that tribulation cultivator organization again. In that case, he really did have an affinity with Black Wind Mountain. So he came to a halt, turned around, and spoke to the tribulation cultivator. "Friend, Black Wind Mountain and I do indeed have an affinity. I know your big master." "Oh?" The man froze, a look of surprise on his face. He hadn't expected Chang'an to say that at all. Could it be, did I try to rob one of my own? He hesitated, then spoke again. "Friend, might you tell me your name, if—" Before he could finish, his heart suddenly clenched. His expression changed drastically as he instantly dodged to the side. Swish! The ghost's soul needle pierced through the spot where he had just been standing. At the same time, rolling yellow sand came howling forth, blanketing the area. A massive dog's head was faintly visible within it. A yellow sand dog, one that's about to advance to Tier 2. The tribulation cultivator was horrified. He didn't dare to fight and immediately turned to flee. But in the next instant, a heavy puppet blocked his path. A Tier 1 peak puppet. His face fell again, a sliver of despair creeping into his heart. Just then, the Chang'an in front of him, the speed puppet, stopped concealing its power and unreservedly unleashed the aura of a Tier 1 peak cultivator. Feeling this aura, the tribulation cultivator fell into complete despair. He couldn't even win a one-on-one fight, let alone face 3 opponents at once. The battle was over remarkably quickly. It took just over a dozen breaths. The tribulation cultivator was trapped in the shadowless net, unable to move, like a lamb to the slaughter. "Spare me, friend. I'm second in command of Black Wind Mountain. Since you know our big master, maybe we've met before." His face was pale as he pleaded for his life. Li Chang'an was a little surprised. "Second in command, you're the second master, Liu Lu." "That's me, yes, that's me." Liu Lu nodded immediately, a flicker of hope rising in his heart. Since he recognizes me, maybe he really is an acquaintance of Black Wind Mountain. Hearing this, Li Chang'an couldn't help but smile. What a coincidence. He had already killed every one of Black Wind Mountain's masters, from the third to the seventh. And now he'd run into the second master. "Liu Lu, you should recognize me." Li Chang'an's real body appeared. With a wave of his hand, he took Liu Lu's storage pouch. Seeing his face, Liu Lu's complexion instantly turned deathly white. "It's you, Li Chang'an. So you do recognize me." "You?" Liu Lu felt a chill run through him, as if he had been plunged into an abyss. Black Wind Mountain had lost several good men trying to deal with Li Chang'an. Of course, he recognized him. "By the way, where's your big master?" Li Chang'an asked. If the big master was nearby, he wouldn't mind taking care of him at the same time. Liu Lu didn't dare to hide anything. "The boss has already gone to Yellow Crane Immortal City," he answered directly. "He's planning to attempt Foundation establishment." "Oh?" Li Chang'an frowned, a sense of foreboding washing over him. If that man truly succeeded in Foundation establishment, he would have a new enemy at the Foundation establishment level. Just then, a cold female voice suddenly spoke from nearby. "Where in Yellow Crane Immortal City is he?" Hearing this voice, both Li Chang'an and Liu Lu froze, because neither of them had noticed when this woman had appeared. Chapter 104, Neglecting Cultivation. The woman was dressed in black and carried a longsword on her back. She had no discernible magical power fluctuations, making her seem like an ordinary person. But Li Chang'an only needed one glance to feel a faint stinging pain in his eyes. His heart skipped a beat as he recalled the description from his divination. "Greetings, Elder." Li Chang'an didn't dare to be disrespectful and immediately clasped his hands in a salute. The woman's expression was indifferent. She only gave a slight nod. She walked straight over to Liu Lu and asked the same question as before. "Your big master, where in Yellow Crane Immortal City is he now?" "Elder, I really don't know." Liu Lu replied, his face drained of color as he trembled. He had figured it out as well. This seemingly unremarkable woman was, in fact, a Foundation establishment great cultivator. And for some reason, she held enmity toward Black Wind Mountain. "You really don't know." "Elder, my big brother almost never revealed his plans for Foundation establishment to us. I only know he was still missing a few key treasures, so he went to Yellow Crane Immortal City." After hearing this, the black-clad woman asked no more questions. With a casual wave of her hand, she sucked Liu Lu into her spirit beast bag before turning to ask Li Chang'an. "The Black Wind Mountain faction harmed my disciple. This man is useful to me, so I need to take him away for questioning. Do you have any objections?" "No objections at all. Please, Elder, take him away." Li Chang'an shook his head repeatedly. "How could I dare have any objections when facing a Foundation establishment great cultivator?" "Very well." The black-clad woman's expression was cold as she casually tossed out a jade token. Li Chang'an immediately caught it and took a closer look. On the front of the jade token, the word Pei was engraved. "So it's Elder Pei." Li Chang'an instantly guessed the woman's identity. Huang He Master had many disciples, and the ninth among them was named Pei Yingyao. She was a sword cultivator at the middle stage of Foundation establishment, skilled in slaughter, with unfathomably deep strength. "You were the one who captured this man, after all. By taking him, I'm putting you at a disadvantage. Take this jade token. If you run into danger in Yellow Crane Immortal City in the future, crush it, and I will intervene on your behalf once." "Yes, thank you, Elder." Li Chang'an was overjoyed and carefully put the jade token away. This wasn't just any ordinary Foundation establishment favor, but a favor from a disciple of Huang He Master. This jade token, within Yellow Crane Immortal City, was practically a get-out-of-death-free card. Pei Yingyao glanced at him and said coolly, "The path of cultivation should focus on one's own strength. As long as your cultivation is strong enough, any difficulty can be cut down with a single stroke of the sword. You rely too much on external objects and have neglected your own cultivation. Reaching foundation establishment is almost hopeless for you. She shook her head slightly, offering this casual piece of advice before departing without another word. In the blink of an eye, she transformed into a streak of light and vanished over the distant horizon. Neglected my own cultivation. Chang'an was taken aback for a moment. He certainly hadn't neglected it. He had been cultivating almost day and night for all these years. It was just that, compared to his spirit beasts and puppets, his own strength did seem a bit low. But that couldn't be helped. After all, he only had a low-grade spiritual root. At his age, most cultivators with a low-grade spiritual root would have barely broken through to the chi-refining fourth layer. This elder Pei has a top-grade spiritual root and is a disciple of Huang He Master. She doesn't lack cultivation resources, so her cultivation speed must be extremely fast. That's why she has such confidence. But I'm different. Chang'an thought with a sigh. Some advice from elders is best just listened to, not taken to heart. If he hadn't relied on external objects, he would have likely died long ago. It's okay to be a little slower. As long as I walk a steady path, I'll reach foundation establishment sooner or later. Not long after, Chang'an returned to his residence. He took out Liulu's storage pouch, feeling secretly glad. Thank goodness I took Liulu's storage pouch before Elder Pei showed up. Liulu was, after all, the second in command of Black Wind Mountain. His strength was considerable, and he had been a tribulation cultivator for so many years. The treasures in his storage pouch definitely won't be few. Chang'an erased the restriction on the storage pouch and opened it. A smile immediately appeared on his face. Indeed, there's quite a lot, befitting of his status. There were 2 top-grade magical artifacts, both of considerable value. There were also many elixir pills and talismans, far more than what a typical late-stage of chi-refining cultivator would have. It was probably because he fought with others often, so he had to keep more on hand. In addition, there were also many other kinds of treasures. Among them were even 2 treasures that Chang'an needed for the 9th stage of body refining. This trip was a huge gain. I got a favor from a foundation establishment master and so many treasures. A smile on his lips, Chang'an began to take inventory of the treasures in the storage pouch one by one. A moment later, his eyes lit up as he took out a deep, jet-black pearl from within. A profound nether water pearl, a treasure that can accelerate the growth of a water element spirit beast. This kind of treasure was extremely rare and could only be chanced upon, not sought out. Chang'an immediately tossed it to the profound water turtle. Eat up. Once you've finished absorbing it, you should be able to reach Tier 1 peak. The profound water turtle lifted its head, caught the pearl, and swallowed it in one gulp. A look of satisfaction immediately appeared on its pitch-black turtle face. His growth speed was very fast. He wasn't far from Tier 1 peak to begin with. More than a month later, the profound water turtle finished absorbing the pearl and officially grew into a Tier 1 peak spirit beast. He was only a single step away from Tier 2. He informed Chang'an that even if he were to force a breakthrough right now, he was highly confident he could advance to Tier 2. This was the advantage granted by his bloodline. In contrast, Dahuang, who was also at Tier 1 peak, didn't dare to attempt a breakthrough. He currently had no confidence at all and was very likely to fail. The profound water turtle asked Chang'an if he should break through now. No, wait a little longer. Let me find a few more treasures suitable for a water element spirit beast's breakthrough. Chang'an shook his head, feeling it wasn't safe enough. Although the chance of success was high, if he failed, he could die from the backlash. The price was simply too great. A few days later, the profound water turtle's strength completely stabilized. Chang'an had him use his borrowing technique talent to lend his magical power to him. He quickly entered the borrowed state. Human turtle unity. Gentle water element magical power continuously poured into his meridians, causing his strength to skyrocket. He almost instantly reached the chi-refining 7th layer. Then it continued to rise. In just a few breaths, he broke through to the chi-refining 8th layer, and the momentum didn't even slow. In the end, Chang'an's aura settled at the chi-refining 9th layer. A feeling of unprecedented power slowly rose within his heart. Good, very good. Chang'an smiled, exceptionally pleased. In this state, he took out talisman paper and spiritual ink, held the Tier 2 Clear Heart Talisman brush, and once again tried to paint a Tier 2 talisman. After a while, he failed once again. However, his progress in talisman painting this time was quite obvious. The hope of success was already in sight. It seems that before long, I'll be able to paint a Tier 2 talisman. Over the next few months, Chang'an continuously attempted to paint Tier 2 talismans. He experienced failure after failure, wasting countless sheets of talisman paper and vials of spiritual ink. His skills steadily improved, and the degree of completion on his failed attempts grew higher and higher. Chapter 105. Chapter 105. Killing a Foundation Establishment Seed. One day, Chang'an held a talisman brush, sitting cross-legged behind a desk. His face was slightly pale, and fine beads of sweat dotted his forehead. An indescribable fatigue shrouded his mind. But his hand holding the brush was still steady, leaving one spirit pattern after another on the talisman paper. An unknown amount of time passed. It felt like a mere instant, yet also like 1,000 years. His brush hand paused, and a look of joy appeared on his face. I finally did it. On the desk lay a completed talisman. A Tier 2 low-grade talisman, the Wind Transformation Talisman. This was an escape-type talisman, the kind Chang'an was best at. Successfully creating it meant that Chang'an had officially crossed the threshold to become a Tier 2 talisman master. From this day forward, I can be considered a Tier 2 talisman master. Chang'an smiled and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had to admit, reaching the stage had been far from easy. Even with his formidable spiritual power and the help of the profound water turtle borrowing technique, he had still failed countless times. In the process, he had wasted countless materials. But now that he had succeeded, it was all worth it. The Wind Transformation Talisman. Once activated, the user can transform into a gentle breeze and move with the wind. It's one of the best Tier 2 low-grade talismans for escaping. Chang'an picked up the talisman and examined it closely, his eyes filled with satisfaction. This talisman was a new starting point for his talisman Dao. Next, I'll try a more difficult talisman. Several types of talismans that could release sword chi instantly came to Chang'an's mind. His strongest offensive technique right now was a sword array formed from talismans. The sword array formed from 9 profound sword talismans was powerful enough to be considered invincible below Tier 2. And the profound sword talisman was merely a high-quality top-grade talisman. If I formed a sword array with 9 Tier 2 talismans, how astonishing would its power be? Just thinking about it filled Chang'an with anticipation. 1 month later, Chang'an's skill with Tier 2 talismans had grown more mature. His success rate had already risen to over 30%. During this time, he had drawn more than 10 types of Tier 2 low-grade talismans. There were some for escaping, as well as for attacking and defending. Among them, the one with the greatest killing power was a talisman called the Blood Sword Talisman. According to the description in his inheritance, once this talisman was activated, it would release a terrifying blood-colored sword chi that posed a threat even to early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. It's time to test a sword array with the Blood Sword Talismans. Filled with anticipation, Chang'an went out into the courtyard. To be safe, he did not use 9 talismans right away. Instead, he first activated 3 Blood Sword Talismans, attempting to form the most basic 3 swords array. VMMM. The 3 Blood Sword Talismans ignited in unison, transforming into 3 astonishing streams of blood-colored sword chi. In an instant, sword intent filled the entire courtyard. The sword array had yet to fully form, but Chang'an was already terrified, feeling as if he would be torn apart by the horrifying power. This seems difficult to control. Chang'an immediately entered the borrowed state, struggling to maintain the magic and allow the sword array to fully form. He took a deep breath, looking at the completed sword array, but did not unleash it. This was because he suddenly had a premonition. If he unleashed this terrifying blood-colored sword array, the Thundercloud Annihilation Array might not be able to withstand it. A sword array made of just 3 Blood Sword Talisman is this terrifying. Chang'an understood that this was already on the level of Foundation establishment techniques. This blood-colored sword array might even pose a fatal threat to early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. Of course, this was only his speculation. After all, he didn't dare find a Foundation establishment cultivator to test it on. The more powerful 6 swords and 9 swords formations are simply too difficult for me to control with my current strength. If I force it, I'll likely suffer a backlash. Li Chang'an mused. For me, the 3 swords array is already enough. As long as I don't provoke a foundation establishment cultivator, my life basically won't be in danger. Next, I need to practice more with this blood-colored sword array to ensure I don't make any mistakes when using it. Li Chang'an made up his mind. For some time after that, he continuously drew blood sword talismans and would occasionally go out into the courtyard to practice the blood-colored sword array. Both his proficiency in talisman painting and his control over the sword array steadily improved. One day, at midnight, a golden light appeared before Li Chang'an. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious. The Xianxia you control is summoned by Zhang Lingfeng, who orders you to deliver a treasure to a designated location outside the marketplace. After you arrive, you discover that the one receiving the treasure is the Cao family's young master, Xianxia. You immediately use a sword array to kill him and obtain the main ingredient for the foundation establishment pill, purple jade ginseng, from his storage pouch. Purple jade ginseng. Li Chang'an's eyes widened. Among the 3 main ingredients of the foundation establishment pill, the purple jade ginseng was the one that targeted the magic power barrier. He had been having Su Fugui and Chu Danyu keep an eye out for it, but unfortunately, it was always pre-ordered by someone else, making it impossible to buy. And now, one had appeared in the divination. What's more, the one who possessed the purple jade ginseng was none other than Xianxia, the very person who had once tried to kill him. Xianxia is the Cao family's foundation establishment seed, so he must have life-saving measures gifted to him by the Cao family's foundation establishment ancestor. Ordinary Tier 1 techniques are likely useless against him. Fortunately, I've mastered a Tier 2 sword array. Li Chang'an thought to himself. He had killed many opponents, but this would be the first time he prepared to kill a foundation establishment seed. He had to be extremely cautious. Since the divination shows it's auspicious, it means I can kill him. I just have to run for it right after I'm done. The next morning, just as predicted, Zhang Lingfeng summoned Zhang Qian into the 100 Affairs Hall. Zhang Qian, take this item to the Clear Heart Pond outside the marketplace. Someone will be there to retrieve it. Make sure you deliver it. Don't disappoint me. As he spoke, he handed over a jade box. During this period, he hadn't noticed anything wrong with Zhang Qian and still treated him as a trusted confidant. Yes, second young master, rest assured. Zhang Qian put on a solemn expression and carefully placed the jade box into his storage pouch. He then took his leave and turned to walk out of the 100 Affairs Hall. Zhang Lingfeng watched his departing figure, a flash of annoyance in his eyes. That Xianxia is such a coward. He failed just once, and now he doesn't even dare bring his puppet body into the marketplace. Otherwise, why would we need to go through all this trouble? After the failure at the Treasure Division Tower, Xianxia, fearing he would be discovered by the Zhang family's foundation establishment ancestor, never again set foot in the King marketplace. In his own words, once he reached foundation establishment, he would fight his way in openly and honorably. Not long after, Li Chang'an, controlling Zhang Qian, walked out of the King marketplace. With a thought, he took the jade box from the storage pouch and opened it. A look of joy immediately appeared in his eyes. Inside the box was a blood-red fruit that looked just like a heart. A blood heart fruit, a treasure needed for the 9th stage of body refining. Could it be that Xianxia is also a body refinement practitioner? Li Chang'an speculated. Of course, the blood heart fruit could also be used in alchemy. It wasn't exclusively for body refinement. About an hour later, Li Chang'an arrived at the location of the Clear Heart Pond. The pond's water was dark and unfathomably deep. Xianxia was sitting cross-legged on a rock by the pond. He glanced at Li Chang'an with a cold look in his eyes. You must be Zhang Qian, right? Bring the item to me now. Chapter 106, Chapter 106, The Death of Xianxia. You're the one the second young master is looking for. Zhang Qian's face was filled with doubt. He didn't seem convinced. Xianxia frowned and snapped coldly. What a stupid question. Who else could it be? What if you're an imposter? How am I supposed to explain this to the second young master? Zhang Qian remained suspicious, his tone growing more wary. He slowly backed away. It was clear he had no trust in Cao Shaolin whatsoever. Cao Shaolin grew impatient and chided. How did Zheng Lingfeng find an idiot like you? As the two were speaking, in the distance, the real Li Chang'an quietly appeared. He took out 3 blood sword talismans and activated them all at once. In an instant, 3 streams of crimson sword qi appeared. To avoid letting Cao Shaolin sense anything, Li Chang'an kept his distance and didn't activate the talismans while facing him. Not until the blood-colored sword array took shape did Li Chang'an change its direction and aim it at Cao Shaolin. Go! With a thought, the entire sword array instantly transformed into a streak of blood-red light, carrying a deadly aura as it shot across the sky toward Cao Shaolin. And in that very instant, Cao Shaolin sensed it, and his expression changed drastically. This is bad. He had been about to snatch Zheng Qian's storage pouch, but now the hair on his arm stood on end as he caught the scent of death. It was as if a soul-reaping demon was staring intently at him from behind. Cao Shaolin had no time to turn around. In an instant, he threw out more than 10 defensive Tier 2 talismans. The next instant, the sword array slammed into his back. Boom! Violent sword qi instantly erupted. In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so Tier 2 talismans dimmed, turning to ash in midair before being obliterated into fine dust by the sword qi. But this bought Cao Shaolin a brief opportunity. He didn't dare look back. He immediately used an escape technique, his entire body turning into a wisp of green smoke as he fled for his life into the distance. But his escape technique was no match for Li Chang'an's. In the blink of an eye, Li Chang'an caught up. Following close behind was another blood-colored sword array. Damn it! Cao Shaolin's heart pounded with terror as he once again sensed that horrifying aura of death. Even now, he still didn't know who his enemy was. To use such a terrifying technique, could it be a Foundation establishment powerhouse? I have to block this. Gritting his teeth, Cao Shaolin summoned several Quasite 2 magical artifacts to block the attack from behind. An instant later, a series of deafening explosions rang out. The terrifying sword array plowed through them with irresistible force. Fierce and domineering, it was nearly unstoppable, instantly blasting aside the Quasite 2 magical artifacts he controlled. PFFD. Cao Shaolin's face was pale as he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. But it wasn't over yet. Just a few breaths later, several more blood-colored sword arrays descended upon him. Sensing the lethal aura behind him, Cao Shaolin was on the verge of despair. What kind of enemy have I provoked? Senior, spare me. I am Cao Shaolin of the Foundation Establishment Cao family, and our ancestor Cao Xianxia is at the middle stage of Foundation Establishment. At a time like this, he knew very well he couldn't possibly stop this enemy with his own power. His only hope was to announce his background, hoping the name of the Cao family could deter the unknown Foundation Establishment powerhouse behind him. Ancestor Cao Xianxia was, after all, at the middle stage of Foundation Establishment. Normally, if there was no prior grudge, a typical Foundation Establishment cultivator would be willing to give him face. But Li Chang'an wasn't about to give him any face. Go, go, go! He showed no mercy, unleashing several astonishing blood-colored sword arrays one after another. The terrifying crimson light merged into a single stream, forming a torrent of blood in the sky. Rumble! After several more explosions, Cao Shaolin's defensive measures were finally almost depleted. The following blood-colored sword array, carrying an incomparably terrifying power, struck his back like a long spear forged from fresh blood. PFFD. Cao Shaolin's whole body trembled, his face turned deathly pale, and he spat out several more mouthfuls of blood. But he wasn't dead yet. He had actually managed to endure the sword array's strike. Moreover, he still had enough strength left to run. This guy is surprisingly tough to kill. Li Chang'an thought, secretly alarmed, as expected of a Foundation Establishment seed. The armor Cao Shaolin was wearing was clearly a Tier 2 spiritual artifact. Otherwise, he never could have withstood that attack. However, the spiritual artifact was, after all, just an external object. No matter how good a defensive spiritual artifact was, it still required enough magical power to support it. Cao Shaolin's cultivation was ultimately a bit too weak. After withstanding 2 more sword arrays, he truly couldn't hold on any longer. His face was completely drained of color, and his aura was rapidly weakening. After stumbling away for some distance, he spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood, which seemed to contain fragments of his ruined internal organs. Finally, he pitched forward and collapsed to the ground. "Senior, spare me." Xianxia's expression was miserable. He barely propped himself up and looked back. Only then did he get a clear look at his pursuer. Li Chang'an. Xianxia was shocked to his core, his eyes wide with disbelief. Just a moment before, he had still thought that his pursuer had to be a Foundation establishment powerhouse. But he never would have imagined it would be Li Chang'an. After all, he had never taken Li Chang'an seriously, not from the very beginning. In his eyes, the real enemy had always been the Zhang family's old ancestor. Even Zhang Qingqing was nothing more than a whetstone for him to sharpen his skills on. As for Li Chang'an, he was a complete nobody. Even after the failed assassination attempt last time, he still didn't think Li Chang'an was anything special, simply because all the puppets had been destroyed by Zhang Qingqing. But now, this nobody was about to end his life. How can you be so strong? Could you be a sect disciple from a major sect hiding your cultivation here in Qinghe Marketplace for experience? Xianxia's voice trembled. He could already feel the powerful aura of the qi refining 9th layer coming from Li Chang'an. But before this, Li Chang'an had clearly only had a qi refining 5th layer cultivation. Such a huge gap could only be explained by him hiding his cultivation. To be at the qi refining 9th layer at such a young age, and to possess powerful magic comparable to Foundation establishment techniques, he couldn't possibly be a loose cultivator. Li Chang'an, no, Taoist Li, I beg you, please be merciful. I was blind before and failed to recognize your greatness. I didn't know your true identity. Xianxia begged for mercy in agony, his mouth full of blood. His heart was filled with regret. If only I had known, I never would have trusted that idiot Zhang Lingfeng. Zhang Lingfeng had completely screwed me over, and now I'm about to lose my life because of it. If I had known Li Chang'an was this strong, my first instinct would have been to befriend him, not make him an enemy. At this moment, Li Chang'an walked up to him. He looked at the man indifferently and said calmly, "Taoist Cao, you're overthinking it. I'm just a low-level loose cultivator, not the sect disciple from a major sect you imagine me to be." "What?" Xianxia was shaken. Before he could say anything else, a stream of sword qi tore open his neck. In an instant, fresh blood gushed out like a spring. "You?" Xianxia clutched his neck tightly, his expression one of pure agony. On the verge of death, he still struggled to beg for mercy. "Don't kill me. My brother is a disciple of the Cyan Cloud sect. We brothers share a bond. He'll be able to sense when I die." His voice grew fainter and fainter. Finally, he collapsed to the ground, his pupils lost focus, and he moved no more. And so, the Foundation establishment seed of the Cao family, the young celestial pride known as the Killing Child, died at the hands of Li Chang'an. Chapter 107. Chapter 107. Kill the turtle to take its core. Li Chang'an moved swiftly. In the blink of an eye, he had taken all the treasures from Xianxia's body. Then he cast several talismans. A raging fire erupted, engulfing Xianxia's body. Time to go. Without a moment's hesitation, Li Chang'an used an escape technique and quickly fled the area. About an hour later, a terrifying presence flew in from the horizon, landing in that very spot in an instant. The arrival's face was contorted with fury, his body surging with the tyrannical magical power of the middle stage of Foundation establishment. It was none other than the Cao family's Foundation establishment ancestor, Cao Xianxia. He looked at the place where Xianxia had fallen. His bloodshot eyes looked as if they were about to spew flames. A moment later, an earth-shattering furious roar echoed. "Who was it who dared to kill my Cao family's killing child?" Cao Xianxia was burning with rage, his chest feeling as if it would burst from the fury welling within him. Xianxia was the successor he had painstakingly groomed to reach Foundation establishment. After his own death, Xianxia was meant to ensure the Cao family's glory for at least another century. But now, that glory had been reduced to ashes. Just who was it? By now, Li Chang'an had already fled far away. He knew that Xianxia's death was bound to cause a massive uproar. It might even trigger another conflict between Foundation establishment cultivators. Therefore, he didn't return to King Marketplace at all. Instead, he found a place to hide, intending to lie low until the whole affair blew over. Phew! Deep underground, Chang'an let out a long sigh of relief. The operation had seemed successful, but it was, in fact, incredibly dangerous. Xianxia was clearly treasured by the Cao family's ancestor. The number of protective treasures on him was far greater than he had imagined. Without the blood-colored sword array, Chang'an would never have been able to take him down. Thankfully, the blood-colored sword array was powerful enough. Chang'an was secretly relieved. Risk and reward often go hand in hand. Although the operation was extremely dangerous, the rewards were also substantial. Merely the Tier 2 armor Xianxia had been wearing was worth a staggering amount. 5 elements spirit armor, a Tier 2 low-grade spirit armor. Spiritual artifacts of this tier are typically used by Foundation establishment great cultivators. Chang'an smiled as he carefully examined the spirit armor. It had withstood 3 direct hits from the blood-colored sword array during their battle, without suffering the slightest damage. Since it was a 5 elements attribute armor, Chang'an could use it as well. Perfect, I can replace my current armor. A treasure armor like this would be enough to last Chang'an until he reached Foundation establishment. This spirit armor was most likely a protective gift from the Cao family ancestor to Xianxia. Now that he's dead and the Cao family has lost its future Foundation establishment cultivator, I wonder if their ancestor will go berserk. Chang'an's heart pounded with fear just imagining the scene. However, he quickly recalled that before Xianxia died, he mentioned having an older brother who was a disciple of the Cyan Cloud sect. Rumor has it that the Cao family has another celestial pride, known as the Cao family's young dragon. I'd assumed that was just a false rumor spread by the family, but it seems it's most likely true. The Cao family produced 2 celestial prides in this generation, 1 young dragon and 1 killing child. The Zheng family, by contrast, was a step behind, with only Zheng Qingqing. As for Zheng Lingfeng, his cultivation level was certainly high, but his actual combat strength was far inferior to Zheng Qingqing's. Moreover, he had spent his entire life under the Zheng family's protection and lacked real-world experience. The Cao family is really daring, sending their genius to a sect. Aren't they afraid he'll forget his roots? Sending a family disciple into a sect has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages were obvious. The disciple could leverage the sect's resources to grow and gain the backing and status of a sect member. But the disadvantages were just as clear. It's said that after many clan disciples mature within a sect, they begin to prioritize their own or the sect's interests. Their ties to their family become very weak. For this very reason, most cultivation immortality clans wouldn't send their Foundation establishment seeds to a sect. If that disciple reached Foundation establishment and then refused to return to the clan, it would be a tremendous loss. In the eyes of a sect disciple, is their clan just a burden? Chang'an mused, beginning to understand the mindset of those sect disciples. If the Cao family's young dragon returns to the clan, perhaps they won't completely lose their minds. But none of that has anything to do with me. On the surface, I'm just a junior loose cultivator at the Qi refining 5th layer. There's no way they'd suspect me of being the killer. Based on the strength Chang'an had publicly shown, almost no one would suspect him. The person who killed Xianxia had to be either a Foundation establishment ancestor or some old monster who had been accumulating power for a long time at the Qi refining 9th layer. Time to check his storage pouch. Chang'an removed the restriction on the storage pouch and opened it. His eyes immediately lit up. With a flick of his will, he retrieved a spirit ginseng from within. The spirit ginseng was purple all over, its surface smooth and lustrous as if carved from a purple jade treasure. It was one of the 3 main ingredients for the Foundation establishment pill. The purple jade ginseng. Chang'an's eyes lit up with joy as he examined it for a long while. This purple jade ginseng's medicinal essence is perfectly preserved, and its quality is superb. It's a top-tier ingredient for alchemy. His alchemy inheritance included a special magic for discerning the quality of spirit medicines. With Chang'an's current skill in alchemy, he could naturally tell that the quality of this purple jade ginseng was exceptionally high. The higher a spirit medicine's quality, the more potent its medicinal effects. With this, I've now collected 2 of the 3 main ingredients for the Foundation Establishment pill. I've also gathered more than half of the auxiliary medicines. The remaining ones shouldn't be too hard to find. As far as Li Chang'an was concerned, only 2 ingredients for the Foundation Establishment pill remained that were particularly difficult to acquire. These were the blood dragon vine, a spirit medicine corresponding to the essence component, and the most difficult to obtain of all, a Tier 2 demon core. A Tier 2 demon core contained an unimaginably vast amount of power. It could act as a catalyst to fuse the medicinal properties of the 3 main ingredients and the numerous auxiliary medicines. The Tier 2 demon core is the biggest hurdle. Li Chang'an pondered. To obtain a Tier 2 demon core, one had to slay a Tier 2 demon beast, an act equivalent to killing a Foundation Establishment powerhouse of the human race. It was an incredibly difficult task. Of course, for him, there was a relatively simple method. If his profound water turtle could advance to Tier 2, it would certainly form a Tier 2 demon core within its body. When that happened, he could just kill the turtle and take its core. But Li Chang'an couldn't bring himself to do it. I wonder if the Foundation Establishment favor I'm owed could be exchanged for a Tier 2 demon core. He thought about it but felt the chances were slim. A mere favor wasn't worth a Foundation Establishment great cultivator risking their life to hunt a Tier 2 demon beast. Oh well, maybe I'll have a chance to get one when I go to Yellow Crane Immortal City. Li Chang'an shook his head, pushing the thought aside and continuing to inspect the other treasures in the storage pouch. Besides the purple jade ginseng, the pouch also contained over 20 different auxiliary medicines for the Foundation Establishment pill, more than half of which were duplicates of what Li Chang'an had already collected. Additionally, there was a large quantity of other spirit medicines. As expected of the Cow family's young master, Li Chang'an patiently identified each spirit medicine in turn. All these spirit medicines could be used for alchemy, which would help him increase his proficiency in the art. There aren't many spirit stones, though. Could it be because he spent too much making that puppet last time? A quick scan revealed only a few hundred spirit stones, hardly befitting his status. In addition, there were a total of 4 Quasi-Tier 2 magical artifacts. 3 were defensive magical artifacts, and 1 was an offensive magical artifact, all of them quite valuable. However, they were all earth element magical artifacts, which were incompatible with Li Chang'an's own attributes. Even if they were compatible, he wouldn't dare use them. I'll find a time to sell them. I can't sell them in the black market, though. I'll have to do it in Yellow Crane Immortal City. Li Chang'an mused. The Cow family must be furious right now, searching high and low for the killer. If he sold these magical artifacts in the black market, he would undoubtedly be targeted by the Cow family. Chapter 108. Chapter 108. Consecutive Breakthroughs. About an hour later, Li Chang'an finished taking inventory of the elixir pills and talismans in the storage pouch. As for the cultivation techniques and magic, most were of the earth attribute and basically useless to him. The remaining treasures were also mostly earth element treasures. Among them, Li Chang'an discovered 2 types needed for the 9th stage of body refining. These earth element treasures could help Da Huang build up some reserves. Li Chang'an called Da Huang over and immediately fed some to him. Afterward, he fed some treasures to the profound water turtle as well. The marketplace probably won't be peaceful for a while. The 3 of us won't be going back for now. We'll stay here for half a month. Li Chang'an took out the spiritual eye and placed it in the center of the underground space. With the support of the spiritual eye and spirit stones, his cultivation speed wouldn't drop too much even though he was temporarily away from the spirit vein. Over the next half-month, things went just as Li Chang'an had predicted. The entire Cow family went berserk, searching everywhere for the killer. The disciples of the Cow family relentlessly targeted the Zhang family disciples in the secret realm, causing the Zhang family to suffer heavy casualties. Chang'an marketplace was not peaceful either. The Cow family hired a large number of tribulation cultivators, who periodically stirred up trouble in the marketplace. The Cow family's patriarch, Cow Xianxia, even attacked the marketplace twice. Although he was repelled by the Zhang family's patriarch using an array both times, the marketplace was still gripped by fear. Everyone wanted to know who on earth killed the Cow family's young master. In contrast, Li Chang'an's days were peaceful and quiet. One day, Li Chang'an slowly rose from his medicinal bath. His skin was crimson, his muscles corded and powerful. He looked like a humanoid tiger leopard, his vitality terrifyingly strong. The seventh stage of body refining, I've finally reached it. At that moment, he felt a surge of power coursing through his entire body. A sense of immense strength welled up within him. It was as if he could tear anything apart with his bare hands. Such a powerful physique was rare among chi-refining cultivators. A moment later, the crimson color on his body faded, and his fair complexion returned. Once he put on his clothes, he once again looked like a pale scholar with a bookish air. Subsequently, Li Chang'an took out a puppet comparable to the chi-refining seventh layer and allowed it to attack him. Boom, boom, boom. He controlled the puppet, showing no mercy as it bombarded his body. When it was all over, there were only a few faint white marks on his body. Withstanding a chi-refining seventh layer's attacks head-on, not bad. Li Chang'an was quite satisfied with his current physique. At this point, his body-refining cultivation had officially surpassed his chi-refining cultivation. However, Li Chang'an had a faint feeling that his chi-refining cultivation was also on the verge of a breakthrough. Time to continue my seclusion. He focused his mind and continued to cultivate in the dim underground space. Due to the lack of a spirit vein for support, the amount of spirit stones he consumed each day during this period was astronomical. Before he knew it, another month had passed. One day, as evening fell, Li Chang'an sat cross-legged with the spiritual eye before him. The ground around him was littered with shattered spirit stones. For a brief moment, the spiritual power within the entire underground space reached an extremely dense concentration. It's time to break through. His eyes were slightly closed, his heart and mind calm, as he slowly circulated the cyan wood technique. Not far away, Da Huang and the profound water turtle each stood guard in a corner, warily watching the surroundings to prevent anyone from disturbing Li Chang'an's breakthrough. The transition from the chi-refining sixth layer to the seventh layer marked the shift from the middle stage to the late stage. It was a significant barrier. It was a significant barrier that held back many chi-refining cultivators for years, some even for their entire lives. For example, the stall owner who had traded the peaceful spirit talisman with Li Chang'an had failed 3 times in a row. But Li Chang'an's foundation was exceedingly stable. It accumulated a deep foundation at the chi-refining sixth layer. This breakthrough went smoothly, and he didn't feel any bottleneck at all. About a quarter of an hour later, a profound and mysterious aura emanated from his body. Chi-refining seventh layer. Li Chang'an opened his eyes, a sharp glint flashing within them. Finally, he too had become a late stage of chi-refining cultivator. It wasn't easy. Li Chang'an retracted his aura and sighed with heartfelt emotion. The journey to this point had been fraught with difficulties. Perhaps only his 2 spirit beasts could vaguely understand the hardships he had faced. Da Huang and you, profound water turtle, come over here. Li Chang'an called out. The 2 spirit beasts immediately came to his side. He looked at the profound water turtle and thought for a moment. It's been so long, and I still haven't given you a name. Since you're pitch black all over, I'll call you Xianxia. Hearing this, the profound water turtle rolled its eyes, proving that its eyeballs were in fact white. It had actually been grayish cyan when it was born, but as it grew, its color deepened until it was now as black as ink. The name Xianxia was actually quite fitting. Li Chang'an smiled and patted the 2 spirit beasts on the head, saying, "The opportunities in Chang'an marketplace are no longer of much use to us. In a few days, we'll go to Yellow Crane Immortal City. We might be able to find an opportunity for you two to break through to Tier 2 there." As he spoke, he himself felt a sense of anticipation. A few days later, Li Chang'an consolidated his cultivation at the chi-refining seventh layer. He left the underground space and returned to Chang'an marketplace. More than a month had passed, and the shockwaves from Cao Shaolin's death had subsided considerably. Chang'an marketplace was no longer so chaotic. Li Chang'an returned to his residence and began to pack his things. 2 days later, he suddenly received a letter from Su Fugui. The letter contained a very important piece of news. Brother Li, in 1 month, Yellow Crane Immortal City will be holding an auction. Information about a small portion of the auction items has already been leaked, and it includes 4 stalks of blood dragon vine. You have to come quickly. I've already secured an invitation to the auction for you. Blood dragon vine. This was precisely the last main ingredient Li Chang'an needed for the Foundation establishment pill. 4 whole stalks. Li Chang'an took a deep breath. If there were only one, the competition at the auction would be incredibly fierce. But 4 stalks was a different story. With his current financial resources, winning the bid for 1 stalk wouldn't be a problem at all. Not long after, another letter arrived in his hands. This letter was from Chu Danyu. It also mentioned the blood dragon vine and urged Li Chang'an to hurry to the immortal city. This time, I must secure at least 1 stalk. Li Chang'an made up his mind. That night, he paid a visit to Zhang Qingqing's residence to make a trade. Inside Cao Shaolin's storage pouch, there were several rare fire element treasures, and Zhang Qingqing had a fire spirit root. Li Chang'an planned to trade them with her for the treasures he needed for his body refinement. Young miss, are any of these treasures of use to you? Taoist Li, your timing is perfect. If you'd come a few days later, you would have missed me. Zhang Qingqing said to him with a smile. Hearing this, Li Chang'an was taken aback. Could it be that you're also going to Yellow Crane, Immortal City, young miss? Oh, you're going too, Taoist Li. That's right. Given their current relationship, there was no need to hide anything. After a brief conversation, Zhang Qingqing learned that Li Chang'an was going to the Immortal City to buy the blood dragon vine. And Li Chang'an learned why Zhang Qingqing was going to Yellow Crane, Immortal City. Foundation Establishment. Chapter 109. Chapter 109. Heading to the Immortal City, a Foundation Establishment ambush. Both of them planned to go to Yellow Crane, Immortal City. And surprisingly, they had set the exact same departure time, 3 days from now. Zhang Qingqing couldn't help but smile. Taoist Li, it seems we're of one mind. We even set the same date. Young miss, do you plan to attempt your Foundation establishment immediately after arriving at the Immortal City? No. Zhang Qingqing shook her head slightly. She also needed to attend that auction to purchase a treasure that could assist with Foundation establishment. Taoist Li, since our timing is the same, why don't we travel together? We can look out for each other. What do you think? I couldn't ask for more. Li Chang'an did not refuse. Zhang Qingqing's combat prowess was quite high. There was no harm in traveling with her. After all, the journey from King Marketplace to Yellow Crane Immortal City would take several days at least. During that time, if one's luck was bad, an encounter with tribulation cultivators was almost inevitable. Having a powerful companion was always better than traveling alone. Besides, traveling together for a few days will be a good chance to get closer. If she really succeeds in her Foundation establishment, I'll have a friend at the Foundation establishment level. Li Chang'an thought to himself. A friend at the Foundation establishment level was much better than a Foundation establishment favor. A moment later, the two of them conducted their trade. Li Chang'an acquired several treasures he needed for the 9th stage of body refining. The further one progresses in body refinement, the rarer the required treasures become. Luckily, I've almost gathered everything I need. He had already begun the 8th stage of body refinement. As for the treasures for the 9th stage, there were only 3 last items he had yet to find. He should be able to gather the rest in Yellow Crane Immortal City. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. Tomorrow was the day of their departure for Yellow Crane Immortal City. That night, just after midnight, Li Chang'an was in his medicinal bath when a golden light suddenly flashed before his eyes. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Great Peril. You travel with Zhang Qingqing to Yellow Crane Immortal City. Along the way, you are ambushed by 2 Foundation establishment powerhouses, the Cow family ancestor and the 5 poison wanderer. You fight back desperately, but ultimately escape with heavy injuries. Great Peril. Li Chang'an's heart skipped a beat. The last time a divination like this appeared was when the marketplace's array was broken, and the Cow family ancestor and Wu family ancestor stormed the marketplace. He had been caught in the battle between Foundation establishment cultivators and was severely injured. But this time was even more dangerous. He would have to face Foundation establishment powerhouses directly. The cow family ancestor must be after Zhang Qingqing, but what about the five-poison wanderer? Could he be an accomplice hired by the cow family ancestor? Li Chang'an's brow furrowed as he pondered for a moment. He had known for a long time that the cow family had ties to tribulation cultivator organizations. After all, the cow family had hired Black Wind Mountain before. As long as Cao Zhengxing was willing to pay a high enough price, it wasn't surprising that he could hire the five-poison wanderer. Two foundation establishment powerhouses attacking at the same time means they believe Zhang Qingqing also has a foundation establishment expert protecting her. In that case, I'm just caught in the crossfire. Li Chang'an had a rough idea of the reason behind this. What he couldn't figure out was this. Zhang Qingqing's trip to the immortal city for her foundation establishment was critical information. Few people within the Zhang family should have known about it. How did the cow family ancestor find out? The Zhang family is as leaky as a sieve. They can't keep any secrets. Li Chang'an was truly speechless. Fortunately, he had his divination. Otherwise, he would have likely faced a life-or-death situation this time. But I can actually escape from the hands of a foundation establishment ancestor. Li Chang'an read the divination's text again, secretly astonished. Could it be because his escape technique was too powerful? He couldn't help but recall something. It was once rumored that the third chief of Black Wind Mountain had escaped from the grasp of a foundation establishment powerhouse. Back then, he had thought those rumors were just boasts from the tribulation cultivators. Thinking about it now, perhaps there was some truth to them. Of course, it was also possible that the two foundation establishment powerhouses were focused on killing Zhang Qingqing and didn't care whether a small fry like him lived or died, which was why he was able to get away. Regardless, I absolutely cannot leave tomorrow. Li Chang'an immediately ended his medicinal bath and hurried out the door. He soon arrived at Zhang Qingqing's residence. "Young miss, I don't know why, but I've felt uneasy for the past 2 days. I'm worried something unexpected might happen on our journey." "Oh, Taoist Li feels it too." Zhang Qingqing's elegant brows knitted together. She had the same feeling. It was as if some disaster was about to befall them. Li Chang'an didn't waste words and asked her directly, "Young miss, how many people within the Zhang family know about your trip to the immortal city for foundation establishment?" "Only myself, the two ancestors, and the current patriarch Zhang know." Zhang Qingqing was very smart and understood the implication of his words. "Taoist Li, are you suspecting that someone within the Zhang family sold my information to the Cao family, leading to us being ambushed by them on the road?" "Correct." Hearing Zhang Qingqing's words, Li Chang'an became even more confused. The two foundation establishment ancestors and the current patriarch Zhang, logically speaking, should have no reason to betray Zhang Qingqing. The Zhang family gaining another foundation establishment cultivator. There was no downside for them in that. This matter is strange. Li Chang'an pondered for a moment. "Young miss, regardless, we must not leave tomorrow. Let's wait a few more days." "All right." Zhang Qingqing did not hesitate and immediately agreed. The auction was still nearly a month away. There was no need to rush. Over the next few days, Li Chang'an and Zhang Qingqing discussed the matter several times. 7 days later, they decided to set out once again. However, this time, Zhang Qingqing gave false information to those within the Zhang family. She told them she had to wait another 3 days. She even said the same to Zhang Yuandao, the ancestor of her own branch of the family. That night, just after midnight, a new divination appeared. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, neutral. You travel with Zhang Qingqing and encounter no danger along the way, successfully arriving at Yellow Crane Immortal City in 3 days. Seeing the content of this divination, Li Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief. There would be no problem this time. It seems the problem really does lie within the Zhang family. Li Chang'an suddenly had a thought. Perhaps the previous foundation establishment failures in the Zhang family were not just due to bad luck. However, it was an internal matter of the Zhang family. As long as it didn't affect him, it was fine. The next day, before the sky had brightened, 2 figures quietly slipped out of King Marketplace. "Young miss, did you leave a puppet body behind?" "I did. There's no need to worry, Taoist Li." Both of their escape techniques were quite impressive. They moved quickly and soon left King Marketplace far behind. The journey was just as the divination had predicted. It went very smoothly. They did not encounter any ambushing cultivators. They only ran into 2 demon beast attacks along the way, both of which were taken care of by Zhang Qingqing with a single crack of her whip. The two of them talked a lot on their journey. Li Chang'an spoke of his experiences seeking immortals in the mortal world. The stories of the martial world, court politics, heroes, and chivalry were all things Zhang Qingqing had never experienced. When she heard that Li Chang'an had single-handedly fought his way into the imperial city to save a friend, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Taoist Li, I never would have imagined your personality back then was so different from how you are now. I was young then. Li Chang'an smiled. The reason he had caused such a stir in the mortal world back then was actually to attract the attention of an immortal. He had only done so because he heard that some immortals like to amuse themselves in the mortal realm. If he could catch their eye, he might be able to obtain a fateful encounter with immortality. Chapter 110. Chapter 110. Reunion with an old friend. Huangfeng's scheme. On the 3rd day at dusk, a massive immortal city appeared on the horizon. Yellow Crane Immortal City, we've finally arrived. The entire immortal city was majestic, shrouded by a Tier 3 grand array. Mortals couldn't see it at all, only cultivators could sense its presence. Li Chang'an and Zhang Qingqing both breathed a sigh of relief. One after the other, they entered the array and arrived at one of the immortal city's gates. After paying the spirit stone entrance fee, the two successfully entered the city. Taoist Li, I have other matters to attend to. Let's part ways here. All right. Li Chang'an nodded. He planned to find Su Fugui and Chu Danyo. Zhang Qingqing also had friends in the city. The two of them parted ways right there at the city gate. Following the address Su Fugui had given him, Li Chang'an headed toward the inner parts of the immortal city. Yellow Crane Immortal City is divided into an inner city and an outer city. The outer city is mostly home to loose cultivators in the early and middle stages of qi refining. Their cultivation is not high, and their skills are subpar. Those living in the inner city are mostly at the late stage of qi refining, with a few foundation establishment powerhouses as well. At the core of the inner city is Yellow Crane Mountain, where Huanghe Master and his disciples reside. Li Chang'an had already familiarized himself with the specifics of Yellow Crane Immortal City before his arrival. Su Fugui's master, Wang Fun, was an early stage of foundation establishment powerhouse who possessed the skills of a Tier 2 spirit chef. The Yulai restaurant he established, located in the inner city of Yellow Crane Immortal City, was quite famous. Many foundation establishment, great cultivators had dined at the Yulai restaurant. They were full of praise for his skills. He himself was kind-hearted and made friends easily. Considered a genuinely good person, he had almost never offended anyone, and his reputation was particularly excellent. Fugui is really lucky to have a master like that. Soon, Li Chang'an arrived in the inner city of Yellow Crane Immortal City. On the city streets, the auras of the cultivators were clearly a notch stronger. Most of them were at the late stage of qi refining. Li Chang'an, however, kept his own aura suppressed to the qi refining 6th layer. After a short while, he arrived outside the Yulai restaurant and had one of the attendants announce him. A moment later, a round figure hurried down the stairs, a joyful expression on his face as he ran toward Li Chang'an. Big brother, you're finally here. Fugui. Li Chang'an looked at Su Fugui in surprise. His friend's transformation was simply too great. When he had left King Marketplace, he was weather-beaten and dark-skinned, no different from a farmer's son. But now, Su Fugui had become fair and plump, looking just like a wealthy master. Furthermore, his aura had reached the qi refining 6th layer, much stronger than before. Big brother, you don't recognize me, do you? I just got a little fatter, that's all. A little? The corner of Li Chang'an's mouth twitched. If Su Fugui got any fatter, he'd be no different from a ball. Big brother, come in quick. You must be exhausted from the journey. I'll make you something to eat first so you can try my cooking. Su Fugui chuckled happily and pulled Li Chang'an inside. They had only taken a few steps when they ran into a tall, beautiful woman in a simple dress. Fugui, is this the big brother you're always talking about? The woman's beautiful eyes shifted, and she sized up Li Chang'an for a few moments. Oh right, I forgot to introduce you. Su Fugui slapped his forehead and began to introduce her to Li Chang'an with a smile. His master had 4 disciples in total. He himself was the 4th and youngest. This woman in the simple dress was his eldest martial sister, Tang Suren. Greetings, Taoist Tang. Li Chang'an cupped his hands in a salute. Tang Suren smiled and said warmly, Taoist Li, I've heard Fugui speak of you often. It's a pleasure to finally meet you today. Fugui has also mentioned in his letters that he has an understanding and beautiful senior sister. Hearing this, Tang Suren pursed her lips in a smile and glanced at Su Fugui. Su Fugui scratched his head. Did I mention that? After that, Li Chang'an and Tang Suren exchanged a few more words and became acquainted. Afterward, Su Fugui introduced his other 2 senior martial brothers to Li Chang'an. Big brother, this is my 2nd senior brother, Mo Chen, and this is my 3rd senior brother, Gu Xianxia. They're both really good to me. According to him, the atmosphere in the entire restaurant was very harmonious. His master treated him like a son, and his senior martial siblings treated him like a real brother. Life here was much better than in King Marketplace. This was probably the reason he had gotten fat. Haha, Taoist Li, I've often heard Fugui mention you. 2nd senior brother, Mo Chen, walked over with a smile and started a conversation with Li Chang'an. Li Chang'an was also all smiles as he exchanged a few words with him. He understood. This is Su Fugui helping me expand my network. I need a lot of treasures right now. Items for refining the foundation establishment pill, for the 9th stage of body refinement, and for my 2 spirit beasts to advance. The wider my network and the more well-informed it is, the easier it will be to obtain these treasures. A moment later, Su Fugui arranged for Li Chang'an to be seated in a private room. Soon, a variety of spiritual cuisine prepared by Su Fugui was brought in, one dish after another like a flowing stream. Big brother, try this. This dish is called 3 Friends of Winter. I made it using 3 types of spirit materials, pine, bamboo, and plum. It's highly beneficial for wood element cultivators. Fugui, thank you for going to all this trouble. Li Chang'an was moved. The ingredients alone for this spiritual cuisine must be worth a fortune. Outside the private room, 2nd senior brother Mo Chen's smile vanished. His eyes turned sinister. He turned, walked out of the restaurant, and went straight to a tea stall where he spoke to a cultivator who was drinking tea. Taoist Huang, I have a favor to ask of you. Oh, what is it? The cultivator held his teacup and looked up at him. If Li Chang'an were here, he would have surely recognized him. This person was none other than the grand disciple of Huang He Master, Huang Feng. Mo Chen said in a low voice, Taoist Huang, my master doesn't have much lifespan left. He has no children of his own, so his inheritance should go to us 4 disciples. But he's far too good to the 4th one, treating him like his own son. I'm worried. Taoist Mo, are you worried your master will leave all his treasures to your 4th junior brother? Huang Feng blew on his tea and asked casually. Exactly. Mo Chen nodded in response. So I must ask for your help, Taoist Huang. I want to make our master despise the 4th one. I never had a chance before, but today an opportunity has finally presented itself. Oh, and what opportunity is that? Today the 4th one's big brother, Li Chang'an, arrived. I was thinking. Wait. Huang Feng suddenly spoke up. He slowly set down his teacup, a hint of surprise in his voice. Taoist Mo, the Li Chang'an you mentioned, could he be the one from King Marketplace? That's right. How did you know Taoist Huang? Heh, it's a long story. The corners of Huang Feng's mouth slowly curled up. He glanced in the direction of the Yulai restaurant. Li Chang'an, so you actually came. Mo Chen, standing to the side, was a bit confused. He asked again, Taoist Huang, can you help me with this matter? Rest assured, Taoist Mo, I will help you with this. Huang Feng agreed immediately. To him, Li Chang'an was an obstacle in his pursuit of Su Yuyan and had to be eliminated. Taoist Mo, we are actually the same kind of people. Huang Feng's interest in Su Yuyan wasn't just because of her outstanding looks. Su Yuyan's master was a late stage of foundation establishment powerhouse, and she didn't have much lifespan left. After her master's death, Su Yuyan was certain to inherit a vast amount of treasures. What Huang Feng had his eyes on was not just Su Yuyan herself, but also that trove of treasures. Although he was Huang He Master's grand disciple, his own master's strength was average, only at the early stage of foundation establishment, and couldn't provide him with many resources. That was why he said he and Mo Chen were the same kind of people. In the end, it was all for the sake of cultivation resources. Or perhaps, for eternal life. Chapter 111. Chapter 111. Your big brother runs deep. Yuelai Restaurant. Su Fugui was introducing a new spiritual cuisine dish to Li Chang'an. Brother, this dish is called Jade Tree. It's made with a Tier 1 middle-grade spirit plant called a jade branch as the main ingredient. Go on, try it. All right. Li Chang'an picked up a piece with his chopsticks and savored it carefully. It melted in his mouth, filling it with a fragrant aroma. A warmth soon spread through his belly, followed by gentle wisps of spiritual power that dispersed into his limbs and bones. For cultivators with a wood spirit root, this kind of spiritual cuisine was indeed highly beneficial. However, it was too expensive. In terms of cost-effectiveness, it couldn't compare to consuming elixir pills directly. Of course, most people came here simply for the experience. Brother, what do you think? Su Fugui beamed, his face full of anticipation as he waited for Li Chang'an's review. It's perfect in color, aroma, and taste. Li Chang'an said with a smile, giving it the highest praise. Su Fugui was even more delighted to hear that. He was about to introduce the next spiritual cuisine dish, but just then, a knock suddenly came from the door. Knock, knock, knock. Immediately after, the voice of his second senior brother Mo Chen rang out, sounding somewhat anxious. Fugui, come out quick, something has happened. What? Su Fugui was taken aback, a sense of worry immediately washing over him. They were disciples of a foundation establishment powerhouse. They hardly ever ran into any trouble. He had rarely heard his second senior brother sound so urgent. Second senior brother, what happened? Su Fugui hurriedly opened the door. The moment he did, he froze. Because standing outside were several unfamiliar cultivators. They were all dressed in identical white magic robes embroidered with a pattern of a soaring Huanghe crane. The immortal city's law enforcers. These law enforcers were the most important administrative force in Yellow Crane Immortal City, responsible for maintaining order in both the outer and inner city. Second senior brother, what's going on? Is someone causing trouble in the restaurant? Su Fugui asked instinctively as he looked at the worried Mo Chen beside him. If no one was causing trouble, why would these law enforcers be at the restaurant? Hearing this, Mo Chen sighed and pulled Su Fugui aside. Fugui, no one's causing trouble. Then why are these law enforcers here? They're here for your brother. What? Su Fugui was shocked. The cultivators the immortal city's law enforcers dealt with were mostly tribulation cultivators, demon cultivators, and troublemakers. But Li Chang'an was none of those. How could he have been targeted by the law enforcers? Mo Chen lowered his voice and said to Su Fugui, Fugui, that brother of yours. He's not what he seems on the surface. He hides his true self very well. So what, when you're out in the world, who doesn't hide a few of their skills? Su Fugui of course knew that. Ever since their time in King Marketplace, Li Chang'an's strength had always managed to exceed his expectations. Fugui, it's not what you think. Mo Chen sighed again, seeming troubled, as if unsure whether he should tell Su Fugui. Fugui, that brother of yours, he might be colluding with tribulation cultivators. What? Su Fugui's expression changed. This was no joke. If the accusation was proven true, what awaited Li Chang'an was almost certainly a dead end. Second senior brother, you're not lying to me, are you? Anxiety flared in Su Fugui. He simply couldn't believe it. He had known Li Chang'an for many years and was very clear about his character. Second senior brother, there's no way my brother would collude with tribulation cultivators. There must be some misunderstanding. Do these law enforcers have any evidence? Of course they do. Just then an unfamiliar voice spoke up. Huang Feng, his expression grave, strode slowly over until he was just outside the private room. He looked solemn and said with great seriousness, Today, I led a team of law enforcers and arrested 2 tribulation cultivators who were attempting to commit a crime in the outer city. After interrogation, the 2 confessed they have an accomplice named Li Chang'an. How could that be? Could it be someone with the same name? Su Fugui was stunned, still in disbelief. The name Li Chang'an wasn't particularly unique. It was normal to run into someone with the same name. But Huang Feng shook his head, his gaze cold as he stared at him. Daoist Su, according to their confession, their accomplice, Li Chang'an, came from King Marketplace. Impossible. Taoist Su, nothing is impossible in this world. You haven't seen Li Chang'an in years. How could you know his current situation? With that, Huang Feng gestured to the other law enforcers. The law enforcers nodded in unison and immediately prepared to enter the private room to apprehend Li Chang'an. Wait! Su Fugui's face turned grim. He took a step toward the doorway, intending to block the law enforcers first, then slowly sort this matter out and clear Li Chang'an's name. Everyone, there must be a misunderstanding. Having stayed in Yellow Crane Immortal City for so many years, he was well aware of the law enforcers' methods. Once they took you in and put you through their brutal interrogations, most cultivators, even if they weren't tribulation cultivators, would be forced to confess that they were. If you insisted on not confessing, the end result was being tortured to death. Fugui, are you crazy? When Mo Chen saw Su Fugui blocking the law enforcers, his expression changed instantly. He quickly grabbed his arm, trying to pull him away. But Su Fugui gritted his teeth, refusing to back down. The commotion here soon attracted the attention of his eldest senior sister, Tang Suren, and third senior brother, Gu Shangxing. What has happened? Tang Suren walked over, and a flash of apprehension appeared in her beautiful eyes when she saw the law enforcers. Even Foundation establishment disciples were unwilling to cross these law enforcers. This was because the law enforcers represented the entirety of Yellow Crane Immortal City. If things blew up and alerted the great Huang He master, then even if their master were to intervene, it would be useless. Eldest senior sister, Fugui's brother, Li Chang'an, is accused of colluding with tribulation cultivators. These law enforcers are here to take him away, but Fugui keeps blocking them. You have to talk some sense into him. Colluding with tribulation cultivators. Tang Suren was taken aback. That was a major crime. Her beautiful eyes shifted as she turned to Su Fugui and asked, Fugui, what is all this? Senior sister, don't listen to them. My brother would never collude with tribulation cultivators. Su Fugui replied hurriedly, his round body standing in the doorway like a thick wall. At his words, Tang Suren's brow furrowed slightly. She sent a secret sound transmission. Fugui, how many years has it been since you last saw Li Chang'an? Are you really so sure? I'm sure, Su Fugui said, his voice firm as iron. At the same time, his third senior brother, Gu Shangxing, was also sending a secret sound transmission. Fugui, blocking them like this is not the solution. You'll only attract more law enforcers and end up causing trouble for the restaurant and our master. Gu Shangxing advised patiently. For now, we have to let them take your brother. As soon as they leave, we'll go find Master immediately. If your brother is truly innocent, Master can step in, and this whole matter will be resolved quickly. But Su Fugui hesitated for a moment. Just then, Huang Feng's expression suddenly turned icy. He glared at him and snapped. Taoist Su, why do you insist on obstructing the immortal city's law enforcers? Could it be that you've also colluded with tribulation cultivators, and that's why you have a guilty conscience? Chapter 112. Chapter 112. My sword immortal friend. At these words, the immortal city law enforcers instantly knew what to do. The look they gave Su Fugui grew colder. If Su Fugui didn't move aside, they would take him away as well. Mo Chen put on a worried expression and immediately tried to persuade him. Fugui, hurry up and get out of the way. You know what kind of place the immortal city's black prison is. If you get thrown in, you're bound to suffer. It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. Now that he had, Su Fugui was even more unwilling to move. If Li Chang'an were dragged inside, his fate would be the same. The inquisitors in the black prison were all incredibly ruthless. Taoist Su, it seems you want to take a trip to the black prison as well. Huang Feng's tone grew even colder as he immediately signaled for the law enforcers to make a move. Just then, Li Chang'an walked to the door of the private room and cupped his hands in a salute to Huang Feng outside. Taoist Huang, we meet again. Hearing this, the others were all stunned, their faces showing confusion. The status gap between these two was so vast. One was a loose cultivator from a small town, while the other was the grand disciple of a golden core master. How could they possibly have crossed paths before today? Huang Feng's expression was cold as he said to Li Chang'an, Taoist Li, you have truly disappointed me. Why am I a disappointment? You know perfectly well why. Huang Feng snorted coldly and continued, Taoist Li, During our last trip to the cave mansion, we fought side by side. Our friendship was not shallow. I considered you a good friend and invited you to be a guest in the immortal city, but I never would have imagined that you would collude with tribulation cultivators. His words answered the question on everyone's mind. So they had fought side by side before. At this realization, the looks many of them gave Li Chang'an turned strange. To befriend the grand disciple of a golden core master was a heaven-sent opportunity, yet he had failed to grasp it. Instead, he had willingly sunk so low as to collude with tribulation cultivators. Li Chang'an smiled, his expression relaxed. Taoist Huang, may I see the evidence? Fine, since you want evidence, I'll give it to you. Huang Feng was already prepared. He gave a light pat to the spirit beast bag at his waist. 2 sallow and emaciated cultivators were released from the spirit beast bag. The moment the 2 appeared, they immediately started begging for mercy. Young Master Huang, spare our lives. We had no choice. We were forced onto this path of being tribulation cultivators. If I had a choice, I want to be a good person too. Apparently, these 2 were the tribulation cultivators Huang Feng had mentioned capturing. In other words, Li Chang'an's accomplices. Huang Feng's face was ice cold. He pointed at Li Chang'an and said, "You too, take a good look. Is he the one who colluded with you?" The 2 men trembled, fear written on their faces. They turned their heads in unison and stared at Li Chang'an with their murky eyes. Almost in the next instant, one of them shouted, "It's him, that's him." The other nodded repeatedly in agreement. "That's right, it's him. He's the one who forced us to become tribulation cultivators." Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present changed. A guarded look appeared on Tang Suren's pretty face. She sized Li Chang'an up again, clearly now harboring suspicions. Mo Chen, for his part, tugged on Su Fugui's sleeve again. His tone was especially grave. "Fugui, the witnesses are here. Don't cause any more trouble. Just let them take Li Chang'an for now. If you keep this up, it'll be bad for the restaurant and for Master." Gu Shangxing also sent a sound transmission, telling Su Fugui to think of their master. Master. Su Fugui was torn, finding it difficult to make a choice. His master had shown him kindness as weighty as a mountain, teaching him the skills of a spirit chef and bringing him to Yellow Crane Immortal City to give him a stable environment for his cultivation immortality. It could be said his master had given him a new life. But Li Chang'an had saved his life. "Fugui, no need to put yourself in a difficult position." Just then, Li Chang'an patted his shoulder. He still wore a smile, and his tone was calm, betraying no hint of nervousness or fear. This matter was clearly a trap set for him by Huang Feng. If Su Fugui got too deeply involved, he would only drag himself down with him. "This Huang Feng is even more petty than I thought," Li Chang'an thought to himself. He smiled and looked at Huang Feng. "Taoist Huang, I believe there must be some misunderstanding, as I don't know these 2 men. Li Chang'an, at this point, you still want to argue?" Huang Feng barked, putting on the air of a strict law enforcer. The 2 emaciated tribulation cultivators once again began to point at Li Chang'an. "Li Chang'an, for all these years, my brother and I have been working for you, following your every command. You were the one who devised all the plans for our raids. Now that the cat's out of the bag, you're pretending you don't know us." The 2 of them, their faces full of rage, cursed at Li Chang'an. The anger in their words sounded so genuine, it was almost impossible to discern any falsehood, as if they had truly known Li Chang'an for many years. Seeing them act like this, Tang Suren and the others became a bit more convinced. Now they only hoped Su Fugui wouldn't remain so stubborn, or he would most likely be implicated as well. "Fugui, move aside at once." Tang Suren sent a sound transmission, her voice lacking its usual gentleness and carrying a hint of a command. "Aye." Su Fugui grit his teeth, still wanting to hold his ground. But Li Chang'an said with a smile, "Fugui, it's all right. I have a friend who can prove I'm not a tribulation cultivator. She's already here." Hearing this, Su Fugui was taken aback. "Big brother, who is this friend of yours?" "You'll know when you see her." Li Chang'an didn't elaborate, his gaze fixed on the main entrance of the restaurant. Seeing this, the others were just as puzzled as Su Fugui. Who was he waiting for? Huang Feng frowned, a premonition of unease stirring in his heart. Fearing a new complication, he hastily ordered the law enforcers, "Seize Li Chang'an immediately. Take him to the Black Prison for a thorough interrogation." "Yes, sir." The law enforcers responded in unison, their auras erupting with the power of the late stage of qi refining. They were on the verge of moving against Li Chang'an. However, just at that moment, a far more terrifying aura instantly descended upon the entire Yulai restaurant, so heavy it nearly suffocated everyone. A foundation establishment great cultivator. Everyone's expression changed. Tang Surin and the others had felt the aura of their master, Wang Fun, before, which made them especially shocked. The power of this newcomer was far beyond that of their master. An instant later, a woman in black robes with a longsword on her back appeared at the restaurant's main entrance. Seeing this person, Huang Feng's face changed drastically. Junior Marshal Uncle Pei. He hurriedly bowed, his posture instantly becoming much more deferential. The newcomer was none other than the ninth disciple of Huang He Master, the foundation establishment powerhouse known to the outside world as the female sword immortal. Pei Yingyao. How could it be her? Huang Feng's mind reeled. He never would have imagined that Li Chang'an could actually get /her/ to come. This person surpassed his own master in both power and seniority. Tang Surin and the others didn't dare to be disrespectful either. Shaking off their shock, they all bowed in turn. Greetings, Elder Pei.